In a phone conversation with CBS News, former President Donald Trump says Biden's decision to drop out of the race is, quote, good for the country. Trump also said the Vice President Kamala Harris could be, quote, far less competent than Biden, and added the polls favored him against her. A recent CBS News poll found 51% of likely voters prefer the former president over Harris. For more on this, let's bring in CBS News national correspondent Manuel Bojorquez in Palm Beach, Florida. So, Manuel, we already heard from the Trump campaign in this hour. We're starting to see some of the strategy come together. What are we hearing from them?
I think at this point, their strategy is to continue to try to portray the Democrats as a party that is in disarray. The former president did take to social media rather quickly after President Joe Biden's announcement and deemed him to be the worst president in American history and said he was not fit to continue to serve as president. But you mentioned that phone conversation that the former president had with CBS News' Bob Costa. He touched on a few more points, so let's talk about those. First, he did emphasize that this announcement, the news of the day, came as a shock to the country. You mentioned his comments on the Vice President, Kamala Harris, saying, I think she's no better than him. She could be far less competent. He also cast doubts on whether he would participate in the second upcoming presidential debate. And at the end, he says that he still believes that the election and the race will come down to the policies that are being presented by both parties. One note about the security situation here at Mar-a-Lago now that the a former president, I should say, is here, as the Secret Service has decided to shut down an additional roadway outside of the estate. That's a safety precaution that comes, of course, after the attempted assassination of the former president this weekend, and it's a change they say will be in place until at least through the election.
How is the campaign changing strategy now that Harris is possibly going to top the ticket?
You know, one thing I thought was of note when Bob Costa was talking about the conversation he had with the former president is that there was a sense of making it not just I'm running against Joe Biden. He said, I'm running against the Biden administration. So I think you're going to see an orchestrated attempt here to tie the vice president as much as possible to President Joe Biden. That seems to have been at least the immediate reaction. We'll see how it plays out in the coming days and weeks.
Yeah, that's what we heard in our show as well. And speaking of that, I did ask Trump campaign advisor Danielle Alvarez if they would commit to a debate, whoever was the Democratic nominee. And she wouldn't. She said it would depend on who would be at the top of the ticket. Are we learning anything about a possible debate?
Not at this point. I think the former president has said what he was going to say about the debate question, which was not necessarily a no to it, but just casting doubts. He not only referenced not knowing what the Democrats would be doing as far as selecting a nominee, but believing that the network in charge of that debate, ABC, would be biased and saying it should be on Fox News instead. So no clear answer there. We're just going to have to wait and see.
Manuel Bojorquez, thank you.
Thank you.